And people asked me, why don't you, it certainly makes more money than this, biblical archaeology and journalism and all that. But the reason why I changed over, so to speak, to pursue the passion that I have, which I probably wouldn't have done in Toronto, the art report and all these media, Israel advocacy, is because we're living in this incredible time, and we need to give people, first of all, make people realize that yes, we are in this time. Number two, raising the morale and showing that this is really, really happening. We are really, Mashiach isn't even on the doorstep anymore. He's around the, people used to say he's around the corner, and that was already, we're in the time of Mashiach, which started already in 1840, and then again, the Erev Shabbos started in 1990, according to the Mount Shalom. And now we're actually really seeing it. How are we pretty much seeing Mashiach? Let's start with the elections, okay, or lack thereof. So we're going into our third elections, okay? Now, it's never... Yes, do you know when it's supposed to be?
Like, before Rosh Hashanah.
Exactly. They're already scheduling the fourth elections a week before Rosh Hashanah, okay? I happen to think, personally, that there will be a fourth elections. I'm not even going to go to the third elections because I think it's like Bittel's Bud, Bittel Torah, I really do. They say...
For the Pirate Party.
Sorry?
I'm voting in for the Pirate Party.
Yeah, exactly. They say if you don't go, many of my brothers and others who are religious, Rabbanu, Kiryat Sefer, etc., they say just go to vote because otherwise the Arabs, the joint lists are going to get more power. I don't think it matters at this point. I really don't.
Actually, if you count the days where you're legally allowed to do from one election to another election,
yeah,
the third election is supposed to fall out on Purim.
Right.
When they changed the law to make it, I think it would have been very fitting to have it on Purim.
Right, me too. Yeah, but that's Trump. But he's really a perfect example of that, actually, which we'll get to. But the third elections, it's never been done. It's never happened. Okay. Ever. Not in Israel and not in any democratic country.
Has a second happened in Israel?
Sorry?
Has a second election
I'm not sure. That I'm not sure. It's possible, perhaps. But third, for sure not. And people are left wondering, Trump made a comment actually at the beginning. He said, how is it in Israel where there's two elections, but no one's elected? How is that possible? Anyway. I thought it was interesting, but I'll tell you the big picture, which is fascinating. The Arizal says that we are us. We're actually a reincarnation of the Dora Midbar. Our Shabbos, we were there in Egypt, and we came out of Egypt, and we're reincarnations of those people that came out of Egypt. One of the tests that we have, just like back then, is to come to Israel and stay in Israel. It's not an easy test, as we all know. But that's one of the tests. And so we have it the same, we're brought back right now before Mashiach. It says the Geulat of Mitzrayim is like the Geulat Antida. It says, Kamo, Tzidcha, exact pasuk, Kamo, Yamim said, Tzidcha Mitzrayim, Arenu Niflaot, that I'll show you wonders just like in Egypt, and even more in the Geulah. We say in the Kedusha also. We say that in Musaf Kedusha, we say just the second time also, Hashem will Megal Otanu Bakarov in the same way, even more, the same Yisim Niflaot. You can look it up here. If you read it in Kedusha, maybe you can find it for me over there. It says in Kedusha Musaf, Shadid Bakarov, it says. You can give it the Lashon. But that's what it means. And what we're basically looking at is the same type of Yisima Diflaot that happened in Mitzrayim. How does that pan out? The Arizal says that the Erev Rav will be in power for 70 years. At the end of time before Mashiach, the Erev Rav will be in power. Here. Hu Elkeinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Hu Yashmeinu, B'Rachabav Shenit. Le'nei Kol Chai. Second time. Liyot Lachem L'Elokim, Ani Hashem L'Elokechem. Then Hashem will redeem us second time, first being Mitzrayim. That is like the prototype of all the different Geulas. And with B'Rachamim, B'Ritz Hashem, Geula B'Rachamim. So, Now, the Arizal says, and according to the Zohar, Rashi, that 70 years before Mashiach comes, the Erev Rav will be in power. I have to stay in the lens over here. The focus. 70 years. So 1948 was Hakamat Medina. So if you do the math, 2018. That's 70 years. The Erev Rav is in power, leading Medinat Israel, right? Leading the Jews in Israel. Now, after that, literally after that, 2018, we ceased to have a government. And I really believe that that's it for the Erev Rav. That's bye-bye Erev Rav. And the reason being that Mashiach is really coming. And Mashiach can't come while the Erev Rav is still in power, he says. There has to be a vacuum. And that's why you can have a third election, you can have a fourth election, you have a fifth election, as long as it takes. But people are going to realize that there's something amiss, there's something happening here. And Hashem is really in charge. And this is the Erev Rav's last breath, the gasp for breath, for power. We see it in many ways.
The government's Erev Rav because it's not Torah abiding? Is that the implication you're saying?
Well, the Arizal says because they're the ones that are leading the people, and right, they're not leading. The whole idea behind the Erev Rav is to have a country that is not based on Torah, like to divide the state and the religion, and make it a state like everybody else. That it's sort of like the Haskalah movement on steroids. That's the point of the Erev Rav.
Who do you think they are?
Oh, well, I mean, Perez was like the capital, was the chief for many years. He was like the leader for many years, Rabin and all of that. Lapid for sure, even Gantz. Gantz is like, definitely, I would say. And the reason why is because his concept, his hashkafa, is anything goes. You want to have, it doesn't matter whether he agrees with it or not.
Do you still want the video going public?
Sorry?
Do you still want the video going public?
Look, this is the way he rules, right? This is his hashkafa. So, you want to have buses on Shabbos? Fine, have buses on Shabbos. You want to get, gay marriage like Obama instituted? Fine, whatever. Rabbi Sharon can marry.
Everything is good by him.
Sorry?
Everything good by him.
Yeah, everybody does their own thing. You're all good. It's all good.
And the,
Right?
the mayor who just banned the tefillin?
Yeah. It's funny. So he would qualify. He's a candidate. And he should run for office for government. So anyway, so this is their hashkafa. Anything goes. Just separate the Torah. Torah is not a factor. There's another thing that qualifies the Erev Rav. How do you actually, because the Arizal says that the Erev Rav is, there's 5 different types of people that qualify for the Erev Rav. And they're not just people that are I would say fry, but non-observant. There are rabbis too that could be Erev Rav. And there's 5 different types. And how do you know the difference? Because Erev Rav, they're like, you want to stay away from them. Okay? The reason why, this is my own way of doing this, of separating the two, and I found it works very well. There are 3 traits that Yehudi, the Jews, have. And anyone know the 3? By Shadim? Right. They have Bushat, they have Shame, right? They have Rachmanut, Mercy, and Chasadim, good deeds, random acts of kindness, things like that. That's a Jew. So, what do? We say, who is the person who's, and it could be, he can wear a kippah, he can have a beard down to the floor, but if he doesn't have Rachmanut, like when we came and it was a Gush Katif, we made Aliyah in the middle of Gush Katif, and there were many Rabbanim that were like, yeah, sure, kick them out. I remember the Rebbe, the Baruch Rebbe was very against it, Baba Sali was very, the Shita, the Tzadiki was very, very against the whole land for peace idea. But, at any rate, there were many big Rabbanim that were like, no, let them, they were silent. Mordechai Eliyahu, he was with the people, like, remember, he was right there. At any rate, I voted for him, I think Eli Yishai at the time. Of course he lost, but whatever. But the bottom line is there is a way, so you got to be careful, because these people, also the Erev Rav is very much committed to their own power, their own kavod, That's what they want. And this government is very much like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of people in the government that I do, that, endorse what we do, the right wing, and try to make archaeology backing our ancient right to Yerushalayim, etc., which is very much a part of it. But this is very important to realize. So we see that now this is really happening. Hashem is making it so that these elections, that we're not going to have a government. I really believe that. And people are going to see, wow, something really is happening behind the scenes, like Purim. And it looks like it's all normal, but it's really not. Very not normal. And Trump himself, just the idea, when Trump came off that elevator and said, I'm running for, I'm going to run for government, for president, everyone was like, oh yeah, sure, you run. You'll be the laughing, you'll be our comical, what's it called? Like,
Comic relief.
Yeah, comic relief, exactly, yeah.
That's the only reason he ran.
Yeah.
He ran as a joke. He said, I'm going to show people.
Yeah. V'nefachu, literally, he is what's called in the Torah, in the Zohar, etc., the good within Esav. He represents the good within Esav. And that's why, at the end of days, it says that Esav himself, part of Esav really does tshuva. You see, when Esav came with 400 men to meet Yaakov Avinu was coming up to Eretz Yisrael. And then at the end, Esav says, Yishli Rav, I have plenty, and you should keep what's yours. Keep what's yours. Before you say, that means the brachas that Yitzchak Avinu gave to you, that gave to me, to Yaakov Avinu, you should keep. Esav actually was basking at the end, the brachas that Yaakov Avinu had, Yesh Chag Zeh, to share it, keep it with you. He was basking at the end. And then it says, before you go on to say that if he would have given Dinah as wife to Esav, then Dinah would have been able to get him to do Shuvah. But the point is that Esav was actually doing Shuvah, so to speak. Part of the good within Esav admitted that the brachas were supposed to be with Yaakov Avinu, Shalom Lechem, thanks Yoni, Niguzi, B'chim Abayim. And so that's actually coming out now in Trump. Trump is Edom, right? The U.S. represents Edom, which was Rome, actually. And now the new Rome, of course, is the United States. It's that whole Christian empire is now Edom. And the good within Edom is Trump. And he shows, how is that Yaakov Avinu gets those, Esav says to Yaakov Avinu, keep what's yours. How does he do it? How is Trump actually doing that? He's saying, and this is a nace, who would have believed, especially after Obama, who was like, at the beginning of Obama's period, you couldn't distinguish really between good and bad. You weren't sure where to place him. Then he came out with legalizing all these things, gay marriage, and then you can't walk into a washroom without seeing, coming out and seeing women putting on makeup. Everything is co-ed. It's crazy. And so he instituted a lot of things, and he was very anti-Semitic. Giving the Arabs everything and empowering Iran. We know what he did. The exact diametrical opposite was Trump. Trump came around and they were scared. They were scared of him. Before he was even elected, they said we have to impeach him. He could actually say that, he actually says, give me something, at least tell me what I did. He didn't even do anything.
Still scared. Still scared.
Sorry?
They're still scared.
Yeah, big time. Big time they're scared. Because this is, like I said, this is like the Arab's last thing. Like back then in the Obama era, we weren't sure until the end what's good and bad. Now we know. Now we know what's good and bad. We see that the whole Democratic Party has gone off the rails. They can't clap when the economy is doing so well at the State of the Union. They can't clap. It's hard to believe. Minorities are employed. Sorry?
Look who's running the country. Look who's in Congress.
Right. So you see that Trump, the good within Esav, is now saying, okay, Israel, annex everything you can. Annex everything you can. We're going to put our embassy there. We're going to say Jerusalem's the capital of Israel. We're going to formally say that the Golan Heights belongs to Israel. This is the good within Esav saying, yes, take what's yours. This is really Israel, take what's yours. And the Arab can't handle that, can't stand that. And that's why you have another head of the Arab, Bernie Sanders, crazy birdie, as Trump would say, coming and winning it, actually, he may actually be the candidate, the nominee against Trump. Believe it or not.
That's not true.
Some said last night.
Crazy. The guy's
Crazy. Yeah.
Some said last night, the crazy birdie won against all other guys, makes me look better.
Yeah, exactly. It makes him look better. That's right. It makes Trump look better. Exactly.
I just want you to point out you got a Toronto triumvirate, you know that.
Great. Yeah. And Toronto's makeup Indian. So, why is this happening? Is this normal? For sure not. Who would have ever expected in our wildest dreams that a president would be not only pro-Israel with grandchildren that are Jewish, for God's sake, and religious, but that really is able to step up. And oh, by the way, this is just...
He doesn't do it because of his voters, the evangelist
Yeah,
voters, pro-Israel.
Oh, very.
So,
Oh, for sure.
So he does it because of them, he needs the votes.
Oh, definitely. He does that too. 100% he needs the votes. But he also has a personal agenda that he really believes that. And by the way, Mashiach ben, I'm sure you've all heard this, Mashiach ben David, which is 424, Gematria, is Donald Trump. Not that he's the Mashiach, but the Messianic process is really coming, is really happening through him, and through this whole election process as well.
Very interesting. You know, Rabbi Winston was speaking right before the election, right? Nicholas Winston.
Right.
His main theme these days is also from Toronto.
Right.
His main theme has been Gil Barachamim, and he was speaking
Right.
at the Karabakh shul shortly before the election. He says, you got to vote for Trump, you have to vote for Trump, you can't, there's no other choice. So you're on the same theme and the same track with him.
That's right.
It's all
Well, now you really see. You see that he's the good within Esav and the bad within Esav, which is now really represented by the Democratic Party. I mean, if you think about what they're doing, what they're saying, just listening to the debates, and you know, Sanders first said the first thing he's going to do is stop aid to Israel, and you hear these things, and it's crazy. It's like what's his name? The guy in England. What was his name? Corbyn. Corbyn. That's what he wanted to do.
Corbyn.
Yeah, Corbyn. It was a Corbyn. Stop Corbyn.
Sorry, can I
So,
relate this question?
Yes.
Are you going to relate any of this to the negative aspects of the Trump era? And
Sure.
there's a lot of negativity surrounding him also. So
Yeah. Oh,
he's a good with an ace, so what is all that?
Yes. So why? That's a good question. So why is there all the negativity surrounding him? Because this idea of this messianic process has a lot of like the powers that the dark, the dark forces, put it that Sitra Achra, do not want to see this happening, this messianic process, and so they're gathering all their forces, whether it's Bernie Sanders or the Democrats or these other anti-Semites there, or the Arab Ram in the government, or whatever it is, they're trying to gain. Trying to gain power, they're trying to sit, trying to impeach the president, they're trying to do whatever it takes, literally whatever it takes. Defaming him, ripping up the speech in the background at the State of the Union, like that.
So what about the negativity in him himself? In other words, there's a lot of negative sides. It's difficult to call him pure good.
Of course, look, he's like, if you look at Esav,
there's not just everyone against him.
He also he's a chidji and he loves pleasure and he's totally into the Gashmis, obviously, but red ties, but there are similarities there. But at the end of the day, sure, there's a lot of negativity with him as well. But you have these forces rising up. I think that's the point. You have a lot of negative forces rising up. But what he has done is for vis-a-vis Israel, is very good, and the economy, etc., and also Iran. Of course, Iran is a big player nowadays. Now there is this idea also in the Midrash, of course, everyone's heard that at the end of days will be the war between Persia, right, and Edom, between Edom and Bnei Ishmael, which is basically Persia. So we see this, some people say it could be Gog and Magog, the third Gog and Magog, or the Chutzchayim. Iran, yeah.
Well, topic for a second. You heard about the thing where Iran wants to destroy the Dvarim of Mordechai Esther?
I heard that, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, I heard that. And make it into a polling station or something. I don't know.
But did you hear that everything in that town is now quarantined?
Right.
Really?
Yes, that's true too.
Yeah, nothing's
I don't
happening
think
there
that will
for a
ever
while.
happen. I don't
Really,
think
because of the fire.
That's a big, totally big money from that.
Yeah, so it's true, they're getting hit also now by the
Yeah,
coronavirus.
they're the second to China, they're worse than Korea.
Really?
Right,
What,
Wow.
Iran is getting,
yeah,
Corona?
yeah, so they're getting hit as well.
It's going everywhere.
They say there's 2 dead and many infected, but I think it's way, way more than that personally.
Probably.
But here you see good versus evil, straight out. But the difference is in our generation now, people are into the evil is like good in a way. It's like people are into it. People don't care if they're LGBT plus or whatever it is. They want to be. They go with it and it's good. Like the bad is now the new good.
The same Nazi Germany, the ideology was for same
Right,
way.
right. Good.
No,
Good. Black is white. I wrote an article about that.
Not compare the message.
So okay, it's true. There's the point is that people